Good morning. Good morning and welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you have chosen this YouTube channel, this Sabbath, this sanctuary in time. We know that you have so many options on Sunday morning, and that you chose to be here is something we celebrate. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors and anyone who may be watching the service for the first time online. If you'd like to follow along with the hymns using a hymnal and forgot to pick one up on your way in, please feel free to grab one from the cart in the back when we greet each other in a moment. We only need the gray hymnal today. We now invite everyone to greet each other in any way you can. Elbows if you're here, and if you're joining us online, please say hi in the chat. It is good to be together. As you may know, our minister, Reverend Rose Schwab, is on maternity leave. Some of you may not have heard that Rose and her wife Anna welcomed their baby into the world last week. Marisol Tomoe Rose Maldonado Schwab was born April 11th at 8:55 p.m., a 7.5-pound, 19-inch healthy baby girl. Baby and moms are doing fine, and we send them our love. Since Rose is otherwise occupied, our speaker today will be Bernard Norcott-Mahany, who never, ever disappoints. There are no other announcements, but we do have a word from our board president, Adam Kaler.
Good morning, everyone. Tuesday evening, we had our normally scheduled board meeting, and we had a discussion about our COVID protocols. And we had a motion to go ahead, and after a month of working with the COVID response team, we have made the decisions to relax our COVID masking protocols and our COVID vaccination protocols. So at this point, we are saying that masking is recommended but not required, and vaccinations are recommended but not required to attend services at SMUUCh or any other function. So at this point, if we go into red or yellow, we'll still have coffee hour, any other social events in the building. We do ask that if you are immunocompromised or at high risk, please wear a mask, but we are not going to make the requirement of the entire community. I do want to thank the committee on, not committee on ministry, the Congregational Life team for their hard work through the last couple of years. And the community as a whole, thank you for checking in and helping us keep track of masks and vaccinations. And at this point, we will go forward as if things were normal. But we will, yeah, if they were normal. And if we do have a change of status that requires masking, we will let you know. Thank you.
And now we'll have a stewardship testimony from Loy Gao.
Good morning. When I was asked to give a little talk about why I give to the church, I thought, well, this is easy. It's because the simplest answer is I believe in the mission of this church and the people who make that a reality every single day. I feel I have a responsibility to give within my ability to support that work. And I also hope that I can enable future opportunities to expand the church's capacity in ways that I can't even imagine and that I could never hope to accomplish on my own. A more nuanced answer is that after living in a lot of different places over the course of my life, when I settled here, I thought, well, I'm really looking forward to connecting with a community of like-minded folks. When I started coming here about 6 years ago, well, it didn't take me long to realize that y'all aren't very like-minded at all on most things, but that really appealed to me in so many different ways. And when it comes to the issues that I find most important, things like the inherent worth and dignity of every person, love as a foundational doctrine, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, and serving humanity and fellowship, we are like-minded, and I love being able to support that a little bit. I was welcomed here from the very beginning, and I knew that I had found my people. As I said to a colleague recently when we were discussing the differences in our respective religious affiliations, I said, I'm grateful to be part of a community for whom the concept of all are welcome isn't just a slogan. We do our best to walk that walk. And when I first joined the church, my life was much more complicated than it is now. So I was only able to give a little bit. And over time, of course, I also volunteered my time, as most of you do, or many of you do, and that has enriched my life far more than any impact that I've made on anyone else. But I know that no matter how much time that I volunteer, that's not going to keep the lights on, it's not going to put a new roof on the church, and it's not going to repave our parking lot. Those kind of things are more foundational to the hierarchy of needs of our church, because without that, I can't do any of the other stuff that I really want to be a part of, and the church can't expand our contributions to the community. Since I joined, a lot has changed in my life, and things have become a little more predictable, and I've been fortunate enough to be able to incrementally increase my giving over time, and I hope to do so again in the next pledge cycle. For me, it's a double win because as a non-creedal faith, we're both nonprofit and non-profit. All right. I'll just say, I'll just leave you with that terrible part. And I encourage all of you to give within your ability. So thank you very much.
First of all, happy National Poetry Month. For those of you who didn't know that, April is National Poetry Month. So if you haven't started reading poems, you still have 14 more days. Let me just say that it's a joy to be here with you, to look out on your beautiful faces, to spend time together in this holy place. And those viewing from home, though I can't see you face to face, I can see you in my mind's eye. For we make church together. Together we do church. Together we are the church. You and I, the kids, the choir, Ben and Jim and Jen and Kelly, Rose and Anna and the baby. We are the church. Now hear these words from Annie Dillard. We are here to abet creation and to witness it, to notice each thing so each thing gets noticed. Together we notice not only each mountain shadow and each stone on the beach, but we notice each other's beautiful faces and complex natures, so that creation need not play to an empty house. Come, let us worship together. Our opening hymn, as you can see, is Wake Now My Senses. You can follow along in the hymnal. The words will be up here, and it's a traditional Irish tune, so you all know it. Embracing his inner child, Jim Christ will light the chalice. As Jim does so, let us affirm that love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another. Each month, we as a community reflect on a theme. We do it here in service and in our small groups, and the children do it in their classrooms. The theme for April is resistance. It is not resistance? It's reflection? It says theme reflection. It looks like a debate has broken out in the hall, and we'll wait for the Rules Committee to decide. As I understand it, the theme for today is resistance. And I'm ready to resist. Okay? Oh boy, you get my Irish up. Now, in getting ready for this service, I've been spending a lot of time reflecting on William Carlos Williams, physician, poet, Unitarian, and I thought of how resistance played out in Williams' own life. Williams was one of the great American poets of the first half of the 20th century. As such, he was in the company of Frost, Bishop, Moore, Pound, Eliot, and others. Many of his contemporaries felt that they had to leave their past and their homes to find their voice. Eliot went to England, Pound to Italy, and others left their homes for the big city. Williams, though, never really left home. He stayed in New Jersey, and in New Jersey, he sought to make poetry out of the common language and out of common everyday things, places, and people. Williams resisted the urge to go elsewhere and looked for enlightenment at home. Somehow he knew that he was smack dab in the middle of beauty. All he had to do was look around and notice, and in so doing, create a verse that was uniquely his own. Resistance doesn't have to be big or loud to have an effect. When we remain true to ourselves, our quiet resistance can still be quite powerful. And now, time for all ages.
All right, good morning. Are there any children here today? All right, Andre. Your friends must still be recovering from their Easter hangover. I'm glad you're here. All right, but this is time for all ages, so we're here with you, Andre. You know what's really cool? We are able to observe and take in our world through so many different ways. Andre, can you name any of our 5 senses? Taste, smell, sight, touch, one more. Hear, perfect. Great job. Yes, we can learn so many ideas when we use our senses. What I love about Unitarian Universalism is that it encourages us to connect to our environments, use our senses, and ask questions. When we make observations, we learn so many big ideas about who we are and our place in this world. Can you all think of something you've observed in nature recently that was really interesting? As Bernie said, today we are learning about Unitarian poet William Carlos Williams. He was a physician who loved to write poetry in his free time. Raise your hand if you've ever written a poem. Yes, most of you. And sometimes people write poems about big, broad ideas like love, hope, and freedom. But writing poetry can be difficult if you start with those big ideas. Like if I asked you, write a poem about love, some of you may feel really overwhelmed. But William took a different approach. He believed people could learn about those big ideas by focusing on simple observations in front of us. So he focused on observing his environment through his senses and writing about the things that he could see and hear and feel. Let's look at one of his poems, The Red Wheelbarrow. It says, "So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rainwater, beside the white chickens." What do you think he meant when he said so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow? Yeah, Andre? Yes, Andre is on fire today. Thank you so much. You are really carrying the weight today. He said that so much depends upon a red wheelbarrow is because they do so much work for us. They carry things that we need. They might help us, they might help provide food for a family. You might use it during gardening, or it may carry firewood into your home to keep you warm. A poem about caring for others is a big idea. And let's look around here. What do you see in this space? Andre, do you notice anything? What stands out to you? The stage, the piano. There's so many things, the wooden beams, the fire in our chalice, the people around us. Do you all think you could write a poem by making observations around our sanctuary? I think we could. And our seventh principle reminds us that we are all connected to all things. We are not separate from anything else in this space. The wooden beams that helped build this sanctuary once released oxygen that we breathe. And that oxygen is fueling our chalice flame. And that same oxygen is fueling the chemical reactions in our body right now that are keeping us alive. When we observe everyday things and really notice, like the poet William said, we can learn big ideas and also feel a lot of gratitude. This week, I want us all to use our senses to pay close attention to the things that we encounter. By observing everyday things, we can learn big ideas and also feel a lot of gratitude. All right, at this time, please join me in singing me and Andre to our classroom.
Doesn't the choir sound great? We come to this place to see and to be seen, to teach and to be taught, to give and to receive, to hear and to be heard. We come here together to gather in peace and authenticity and intention. Just rest for a moment. Feel the presence of those about you. We are here. We are not alone. We come to this place to share our joys and sorrows. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, I now invite you to come forward and light a candle. You can share what's in your heart or on your mind in 1 or 2 sentences. You can share with a single word, or you can share in silence and simply light a candle.
My name's Annette. I have 2 joys. Kurt had, my husband, had hip replacement surgery 2 weeks ago, and he's recovering nicely. He should be walking around much, much better soon. And on Tuesday, my granddaughter turns 5, amazingly. She was just a baby. It's kind of crazy how fast that goes.
Hi, my name is Melissa, and I'm lighting this candle on behalf of my friend Rick, whose wife Anita passed away a few months ago and is still very, very much missed.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, and I am lighting this candle of joy. For Joy. My daughter Joy turned 15 a couple weeks ago. She's driving. Be afraid.
Hi, I'm Shawnee Deck. I'm lighting a candle of sorrow. The Attorney General of the state of Missouri has declared an emergency ban on gender-affirming care for transgender children and adults. So it's a year-long ban. It starts pretty much almost immediately. And there will be a gathering today until 2 o'clock at the plaza at the Memorial Fountain. So please keep all transgender persons in Missouri in your heart.
Like a fire hazard. That's right.
I'm going to share a joy. My brother Neil will turn 65 tomorrow. He's my oldest friend and is very funny. So happy birthday, Neil.
And I light the remaining candles for all the joys, sorrows, thoughts, hopes that lay in our hearts, unexpressed, but no less there. And please say these words with me. We hear your words, we witness your life in all its heaviness and brilliance. and we carry your joys and sorrows in a shared heart.
So I invite everyone to put both feet on the ground, to get comfortable in the chairs, to close your eyes if you would. And those at home, you can close your eyes as well. I promise not to do anything crazy that you might miss if you keep your eyes closed. I'm going to, in a minute, first we're going to take a breath together. In a moment, I'm going to say a word. I just am inviting you to get an image of what I say, and then I will be sharing 2 poems by William Carlos Williams. Plum. So you have an image in your mind. The first poem. To a poor old woman, munching a plum on the street, a paper bag of them in her hand, they taste good to her. They taste good to her. They taste good to her. You can see it by the way she gives herself to the one half sucked out in her hand. Comforted, a solace of ripe plums seeming to fill the air, they taste good to her. The second poem. This is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me, they were delicious, so sweet and so cold. Let's take one more deep breath. And we are out.
We have two readings today. Both are poems from William Carlos Williams. The first is called The Great Figure. Among the rain and lights, I saw the figure 5 in gold on a red fire truck, moving tense, unheeded, to gong clangs, siren howls, and wheels rumbling through the dark city. The second is called Between Walls. Between the back wings of the hospital where nothing will grow lie cinders in which shine the broken pieces of a green bottle.
Before I begin, in preparation for the sermon, one of the works that I consulted was a book by Wendell Berry called William Carlos Williams of Rutherford. Since I will be occasionally using some of his language, but don't want to actually have a footnote in the middle of my talk, I am crediting Mr. Berry for his wonderful book. In one of his late poems, the long and meditative Asphodel, That Greeny Flower, William Carlos Williams says this: "It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there." Let me repeat that. It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there. Now, I apologize for Williams' use of the generic man. He was a man of his own time. But that's a provocative line. When a doctor talks about people dying, well, he's got my attention. But what are we to make of that? Surely we aren't meant to imagine an episode of ER where George Clooney turns to Anthony Edwards, a puzzled and serious look on his face, and asks, "What did he die of?" I know my George Clooney, not so good. The reply, poetry deficiency. Nobody, so far as I know, has passed away because she didn't know what iambic pentameter was or how alliteration works. I think that we do get a sense of what Williams is getting at from what he said in an early poem, a poem that was in fact the seed for the 5-volume work, Patterson, that came out a volume at a time in the last decades of Williams' life. In the short poem, Patterson, from 1927, Williams makes the following statement: "Say it, no ideas, but in things." In making that clarion call, no ideas, but in things, Williams was not saying that there are no ideas except in things, but he was denouncing ideas apart from things, disembodied ideas, which ran counter to his own experience as a doctor, looking out for patients as individuals, as friends and neighbors, rather than as cases or types or conditions. He was denouncing various isms that put emphasis on ideas at the expense of things and of people, like, for instance, fascism, which took hold of Williams' friend, Ezra Pound. And as for Williams, a man growing up and old in the 20th century, the atom bomb was a possible end result of such thingless ideas. The atom bomb was an idea gone wild, an idea unrestrained by respect for anything, the ultimate idol. In the academic world of ideas, it is often too easy to forget about the little things, and as a consequence, men, people, were dying of it. But ideas anchored in things, where things are noticed and appreciated, well, there the tangible appropriately defines and disciplines the intangible. At best, undue reliance on disembodied ideas puts one on shaky ground. It often doesn't actually provide the assurance that it promises. Williams believed that we live within and come from a reality that we cannot know in full by any of our systems of knowing. Relying on systems too heavily closes off some, maybe even much, of the mystery and wonder in the world around us. And so, in much of his verse, Williams is all about presenting things through his art, not through the lens of science, but as the things open to senses, to affection, and finally to imagination. And to imagine, to speak out for the things, persons and places by which we actually live, is to break the facade of official identity and general ideas. Consider how town councils often work. Councilors do not stay focused on party labels or doctrinal purity, on thingless ideas. Instead, they often come together to fix potholes and water pipes in the neighborhood. They stay focused on things and people, mostly. In the poems presented here today, we can see Williams' fondness for the particular detail, lovingly presented in simple yet beautiful language. The red wheelbarrow with its rainwater glaze, the white chickens, the big number 5 on a red fire truck, its clatter of noise as it moves out of sight into the dark, the juicy plums, so sweet and so cold, even the broken pieces of a green pill bottle lying in the cinders on the dead plain behind the hospital. All of those specifics were things that Williams noticed on his rounds as he traveled to New York in the case of the great figure, which he did on weekends, and he jotted down those specifics on a prescription pad. That's what he would jot his ideas down on. Sometimes I wonder, did like a pharmacist ever get like some of those jottings? What exactly does it mean? Okay, so don't know, but he would do that. And sometimes, he would just write down the simple raw ingredients of the poem. Maybe like red wheelbarrow, white chickens, and that's it. Sometimes he would have ideas that would actually already fleshed out into lines. Particularity, the thinginess of things, when encountered directly with alertness, with love, with grace, can awaken wonder, and it can spark compassion. Though grouping things together or engaging in some sort of mental shorthand can help us get work done in a timely manner, such grouping and labeling is likely to dull our senses. The world loses wonder as we take shortcuts to knowledge. In the world we live in, where we have so much to do and so little time, it is tempting to take shortcuts. Sometimes it's necessary to do so, but we do so at a cost. Poetry reminds us to slow down, for poetry cannot be read using speed reading techniques. A poem invites us to experience its peculiar specialness, to savor its sensual qualities, to feel its rhythm, to hear its music, to see its words, not en masse, but one by one at a considered pace. One of my oldest memories of poetry comes from grade school. And the words of the well-meaning nun, yes, I went to Catholic schools, the well-meaning nun teaching us echo in my brains. What the poet means is, and then the nun would give her take on the poem, or the official take of the poem that she read in a book somewhere. I know she meant well. She was trying to streamline the difficulty of verse, because verse can be difficult. She was trying to make it easier for us to understand. But those words, what the poet means, set me on a wrong path. Throughout grade school, I was always looking for the meaning of the poem and ignoring its sensual magic. Given that it was a Catholic school, keeping me from sensual magic may have been part of the plan. Still, I was that student Poet laureate Billy Collins bewails in his poem, Introduction to Poetry, where he imagines his students tying the poem to a chair to get a confession out of it. They begin beating it with rubber hoses to find out what it really means. Now, when I read a poem, I look at the poem on the page. What does it look like? Sometimes the look of the poem, its physical structure on a page, is integral to the experience of it. And then I read it aloud. I want to hear its music, even if I initially stumble through. I'm aware of the texture of the sounds, of the patterns, of the onomatopoeia, if there is any, gong clangs, siren howls, wheels rumbling. This sort of appreciation is easiest to do with poems that are songs, as the music helps us apprehend the poem's sensual qualities. As I read through a poem, tripping rather than trippingly at times, I also feel all those words in my mouth. The words and phrases each have their own texture. They may have a gritty crunchiness. They may have a smoothness. They have their own weight, whether light as a feather or ponderous as lead. I love listening to others read verse, masters like Seamus Haney or Billy Collins on recordings, or friends or students live as they read. And I wonder at the different texture each of those readers brings to the words. Sometimes it just gives me tingles. Noticing, appreciating, embodying the thinginess of things in poems is fun, and it enlivens us like some elixir. But we don't just do it for the fun. Williams mined his own life experience as a doctor and distilled it to give witness, to use his words, to the holiness of ordinary things and the mystery of these streets. Williams was no dumb witness simply observing. He knew, as any good scientist does, that the experimenter is always part of the experiment. As he noted in a poem, Shadows, the instant, trivial as it is all we have, unless things the imagination feeds upon, the scent of the rose, startles us anew. It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet people are dying miserably every day for lack of what is found there. So, to cite Roman poet Catullus, let us live and let us love. Let us read poetry and let us be open to the beauty and the wonder of the world around us and all its creatures. That's what the doctor prescribes.
Thank you very much, Bernie. Wasn't that great? The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we are together again. Please join in the closing hymn, Simple Gifts. I think in your book it's "'Tis a Gift to be Simple," but that's wrong. Number 16, okay? You probably know the words, and you definitely know the tune. Our service here today is ended, but our service to ourselves, this community, our friends and family, and the wider world, that remains our duty and our delight so long as we have breath. With that in mind, let me send you off with these recommendations from poet Wendell Berry, who sees this in the verse of Dr. Williams. Look, listen, taste, smell, feel, think, pay attention. Know these lives, these things, these stories of your place. Blessed be.